This is a video on how to install any fence with the wood posts. First thing you got to do is we got to lay out the fence. So we need to know where the corners, the markers are that we're going to use for our boundary. Then we're going to want to end up with a fence line laid out with the string line at the base of the fence. And we're going to lay this off to the side so that we're not moving it around while we're putting in posts. We want that about 1 foot to 16 inches off to the side. And then the very last thing we'll do is put a line right down the top so that we can get the top of the post lined easily and quickly before we pour the concrete. You may have a gate or something like that in the middle of your fence. It's going to be your starting point, and each one of those will be an end post. You get the end posts located, you're going to pour those in concrete, and we'll talk more about concrete as we get closer to the end. Once you get that end post set, you can use a short extension piece of wood at the top of your post to help set your horizontal down the middle of the tops, which is going to help set those posts a lot straighter. Now, rail fences that you insert into the post, I find it a lot easier to lay out my rails so I know exactly where to set my second post. And in a rail fence, you've got to set all of your rails into the posts before you can set the second post down on the ground. I like to measure out their fence posts with a tape measure, but I find that causes me a lot of trouble later unless it's a privacy fence. Now you've got that initial post set and your initial rails, you're ready to start going individually down your rail fence, setting posts. Set your vertical steel down just as low as you can get it with the post driver. Then you're going to want to dig your concrete pocket about 8 inches deep, 10 inches around, something in that ballpark. Once that hole is dug, now you're going to drive that steel down to real close to flush with ground level at the top of the steel. Now drive your angle brace in at about a 30-degree angle and about 2 inches below the top of the vertical. Okay, you'll have your post bases on. You'll assemble those, and so you have 8 or 10 of those ready to just keep going right on down your fence line. When you get 6 or 8 of those posts in place, you can start bracing them up. And as long as you stay 3 or 4 ahead of where you're pouring concrete, you can pour concrete from there all the way back to as far back as you're ready. Remember, with rail fences, you've got to install all the rails before you can drop each post as you go down the fence. You can put in a lot of fence in a day with this system. One of the things you're going to run into is the spacing of each individual fence is not going to come out equal with the rails. So you're going to have to cut those rails to fit a shorter distance, or you're going to have to cut the ends on the rails in order to make them fit correctly on corners. We use a Sawzall because it's really quite handy for shaping the tongues on the end of the rails or cutting the ends off so that they don't hit on corners. When you're bracing your fence, you're going to want to do left and right first because your forward and your lengthwise of your fence is taken care of basically with your rails. If you're doing a privacy fence, you need to follow that string right down the top and plumb them so that they are parallel in between posts best you can. Most of your posts, 1 or 2 braces is going to be plenty. Now, if you're a freestanding post or a post that is exceptionally difficult, you may want to go ahead and use 3 or 4. When posts are all braced up, it's time to pour concrete. Now, I like mine just a little runny so that I can squeegee it in underneath and make sure that it comes up 1/4 of an inch above the bottom of the wood post. Once that concrete's dried, you're ready to come back, and if you're doing a pet fence inside of a rail fence, you can put on your welded wire, your woven wire. You're ready to go horizontal bars in between on your privacy fence. You're just about wrapped up. This is a very, very user-friendly and forgiving fence install system, and we are always here to answer questions. Do not ever hesitate to give us a call, an email, or a text. We are here to support you. This is Ray, and I hope this has been very helpful.